So, for example, I asked myself, do I really believe that Jesus rose from the dead? That's a pretty core question. And you're right about Jefferson. Right. He didn't. And actually, I went, there was an amazing exhibition, and I went to look at his Bible, because he had his own. And the Bible is actually a real Bible with little holes in it, each page. He just carefully cut out all the stuff that was miracles, right, or what he thought was superstition. And I think I'm capable of doing that in seeing the bigger view, which is what you're saying in some ways, that he changed human consciousness forever. And we have different understandings of the world. We have more empathy. We have more compassion. Even when we fail, we still have standards that we aspire to, even when we don't meet them. And he and Paul, of course, the person who popularized him, was the instrument of that conscious revolution. And that's what I stay with. Because I don't think it's a given. I don't think it's a given that slavery is wrong in the context of human history. I don't think it's a given that your tribe is often not to be preferred to the other tribe. Maybe that other tribe is better than yours. That's an incredibly difficult thing for humans to acknowledge, as we are discovering today. That was his central message.
I mean, I think a lot of this is just simpler than that, which is that just as humans evolve and grow as we get older, and we wouldn't expect us to know what we know now when we were 10 years old. If you make a metaphor, a simile perhaps it is, to mankind writ large over the course of history, we were 10 years old in Jesus's time, and now we're an adult. And so we don't believe in slavery anymore, and we don't believe in a lot of the nonsense that people believed back then. And wickedness. It's just that we're still a young species, but we were extremely young there. I mean, history didn't start until fairly recently. I mean, it was only like 10,000 BC, the agricultural revolution, when people stopped being nomads and settled down, where we first see cities, where we first see art and literature and philosophy, and people actually thinking about who the fuck they were in this world. I mean, it's really quite recent. It's only about, I don't know how many generations, a few hundred. And so to me, it's so obvious that the Bible was written by men of their era. That's why there's so much stupidity and wickedness and mythologizing in it, because they were 10 years old in the scale of things. And they believed what we would have believed when we were the children of humanity, as we were at the time. And now we're older. And so to cling to this idea that whatever's in there has any sort of merit. I mean, I don't know where you are with, did Jesus come back from the dead? But that's the question I'm always asking about smart religious people. Look, I just think the Catholic Church, they get their hooks in you, and they put a wormhole in your brain, and for some reason you can't get rid of it. And I still love you, but I mean, it just blows my mind that someone could live with those two things at the same time. Yes, I'm one of the smartest people in the world, and I think that this guy rose from the dead.
Well, here's what the actual Gospels and Acts say about it, right? So your general idea is that Jesus just coughed and woke up and rolled the stone away, walked around and said, "Hey, I'm back." Right? That's the general idea.
Well, we don't know if he even existed as a.
Well, I think we're pretty. It's
no,
but let's just stick to what the Gospels actually say. They say several contradictory things about him having been
many
resurrected.
Contradictory things.
Yes, but
for good
about
reason.
About the resurrection itself, they're contradictory. And let me just explain. One is that he seems to be absolutely like a human being. You can touch him, feel him. At the same time, another story will tell you that the disciples were walking with this figure, and they didn't realize that he was Jesus until they actually had dinner with him, and then they suddenly realized he was Jesus. There's another scene where Jesus appears to come through the walls and just appear and then evaporate again. So that does not feel like a physical human being, back to actual life. So it's a mix of different stories. What they're saying is that something happened, that we did not really believe that this man was dead the way that we think other people are dead, that he was alive in some extraordinary way. And they had visions of it, they had memories of it, they had experiences of it. And it was, and so it's the Bible itself, the Gospels themselves don't have a clear doctrine about this. It was,
Okay, well,
they kind of came later that they actually nailed this down to these rather prosaic, and in some ways it was the 19th century that tried to make literal everything that the Gospels actually did not make literal. And so they ended up in this crazy idea that we have to prove empirically that all this stuff happened, when of course that is not, in my view, the point. But you're perfectly entitled to point out these things.
Yeah, well, may I point out some facts about the Gospels? Okay,
yes.
Because I think a lot of people are fuzzy on this and have very erroneous ideas.
Okay.
The New Testament is written by 5 people, the 4 Gospel writers and St. Paul. That's who writes the New Testament. That's it. Okay? First of all, the 4 Gospel writers were not contemporaries of Jesus.